Width. One of the most important elements to your mix, and one of the first things that you notice when comparing your mix to another. Many times what's perplexing isn't just the sides, but the depth from front to back, or even creating separation in the lower frequencies. That new plugin that I was referring to last video does this extremely well, and I suggest that you head to the description below to join the JST list so you can always be in the know about our releases. And if you're watching this video after the release, well, I'm sure it's already changing your life by now. But depth and width, combining these two things give you a 3D stereo field in which you can bring character and personality to a mix. Well, by the end of this video, you'll walk away understanding all there is to know about width and how it can take your mix to the next level. So what's happening, fam? Miami here with JST, and this episode, I want to jump right into it. I really want to share this knowledge to help increase your intellectual bandwidth, so that you have some new tricks to record your bandwidth. And since this is about stereo imaging, you can also increase your bandwidth and learn some skills you might be able to make a couple of bands with. Now that was crazy. It wasn't a transition, but it was still crazy. So hit that subscribe button, notification bell, and like button if the wordplay kept you entertained. Anyways, let's discuss width and depth further. When we're using reverb to add space to a mix, we're typically using it to create depth. When we're using wideners and ping pong delays, we're using them to create width. Before we go any further, we need to understand this, so pay extreme attention to this example. We're gonna listen to a vocal with no added width or depth recorded in a dry vocal booth, and then add and take out width and depth. Check it out.
I'm standing by the exit. I know you're working this 9 to 5, but did you get my message? I don't expect you at dinner time, and don't take this as offensive, but you're just like all my exes. I'm the least important thing in your life. Will I ever learn my lesson? Standing by the exit. I know you're trying to get overtime, but did you get my message? It says you read it, don't try to lie. I bet you're unaffected. You're the better of the sexes, and maybe this is all in my mind. Will I ever learn my lesson?
If you love what you're hearing there, make sure to check out the link in the description to download your free trial of Howard Benson Vocals, the one-stop shop vocal suite. Now that we've done that and have an understanding for width and depth, we can go deeper into how to attain those things. Just remember to experiment with different reverbs to create different levels of depth, and experiment with different wideners or ping pong delays to create different levels of width. But yes, attaining width and depth. First thing I want to bring up is arrangement. I just want to point this out. This is a band called Mighty Tortuga that I co-wrote this song with and did vocal production for. This is not the mixed version that was done by one of my favorite mixers, James Paul Wisner, and the song is called Fall in Lust, so make sure to check them out. But since I didn't have control over the song's instrumental arrangement, I tried to leave those tools to add stereo width to the mixer. The arrangement, matters for many reasons. The more elements you have in a mix, well, the harder it is to mix, but besides that, the more elements you have, the more chances you have to use the stereo field to your advantage by doubling or even tripling. When you double an effect like a vocal or guitar, it can be used to make certain parts of a mix instantly become wider. So for the verse we were just listening to was a single vocal up the center during the verse. And that was on purpose. It was so that when we got to the chorus, the vocals could change the stereo image with panning. Now, when we listen to this example from the verse to chorus, we're gonna move around from no panning to about 70% to full, and then vice versa. Notice how much of a difference it makes.
Maybe this is all in my mind. Will I ever learn my lesson? Oh no! I never wanna fall in lust. I don't think anybody does. Not who I am or what I was. Oh no, no! These dating apps are for the birds. If I was better with my words, she wouldn't kick me to the curb.
Crazy how much movement a little bit of panning can make. What I love about this band is they're very bare bones, which means you have to really get creative when you're trying to make that stereo image organically. Yeah, there was some reverb and delay on there, but that was done by multiple sources or recording the same source multiple times, not creating doubles or widening artificially. But adding the layers from verse to chorus was effective in tracking and utilized very well, even in the final product. So let's take a listen to that.
I bet you're unaffected. You're the better of the sexes.
now that we've gone over arrangement and panning, we can tackle the next most important part of making a mix wider, clearing up the sides. Actually, before getting to that, I want to show one more thing. I hear a lot of mixes people attempt to do the panning thing I just showed a second ago with guitars, but it causes an issue and sounds congested. So let me show you what not to do really quick before moving on. Perfect. Now we can move on. Cleaning the sides. And what we mean by this is we want to make sure that the mono center isn't too bogged down with unnecessary audio information. When we think of what we always want to hear in the center of a mix, it's always the same thing. Kick, snare, bass. We don't want those things panned, right? And that's about it. Anything else is extra. And it's okay to have some crossover from vocals and guitars in the center, but we don't really need anything under 100 Hertz on the sides of a mix. So what do we do in this scenario? Find a way to remove the sides of a source that are under a certain frequency. You can do this with mid-side EQ on individual tracks, or use a plugin that can do this to your entire mix. But you'll essentially want to make everything under 100 Hertz mono to let the sides of the mix breathe. Not doing this can really muddy up your low end. Howard Benson Vocals has a built-in mono low end, and I'll be using that to show my next point. Let me know if you could tell the difference in that. Might have been hard for some of you to hear, but I know some of you could hear it. And that extra gunk is making the stereo image super cloudy. It adds and builds up on a mix very quickly with a bunch of elements. But now for the next thing that can enhance your width, a dedicated stereo widening plugin. I know, pretty obvious, right? Stereo wideners are one of the simplest tools to making your mix wider artificially, but you have to be careful because if you stereo widen too much, you can create phase issues. Because drums and bass are typically the backbone of a project. They're really good buses to test a widener on before putting it on the whole mix. What I like to do is just increase width until it feels like nothing's really changing audibly. If I can hear the change plain as day, then it's time to back off. You gotta remember, this is going to be applied to the entire mix. So let's mess around with that for a second. Okay, so it seems right now it shouldn't cause any major issues right here. Let's see what happens when I bring the whole song in. Felt like it was a little too much at 15, so I honed it in from there to about 10. And remember, always check first with an instrument that has elements that always stay in the center. And here's one part of width that people never think too hard about: editing and phase cancellation. When you edit double tracks too tightly, you're creating issues with your phase, and this is most common with vocals and guitars. It's the separation between those notes that make it sound full and wide. But when you edit your takes too closely, you find yourself hearing random guitar notes that lose width or even go mono in your performance. Never a good look to have the issue, so here's a good rule of thumb. Take your guitar tracks and center them. Flip the phase on one of them. If the track feels like it's disappeared, then you're editing way too tightly. If you need tips on editing guitar, I just did a video about this called How to Edit Electric Guitar, in which I go over this phase canceling issue. So let's go over all of the things that are important in making sure our mix is wide. Reverbs for depth, wideners and ping pong delays for width, clearing the sides with mid-side EQ, the right amount of stereo widening, editing, and phase cancellation. With an understanding of all of these, it will be pretty easy to pinpoint when and where you should be attempting to stereo widen artificially or organically. Maybe your mix desperately needs it, or maybe it was tracked so well that it doesn't need anything at all. At least now you'll be able to identify when it sounds good and doesn't, and we can kick off this series the right way. Do you guys feel like I missed something? Did I answer all your questions about width? Leave it in the comments below and I will chat with you fine people like I always do. If you're an engineer on the come up, give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, you only have to do it one time, and tap that bell for notifications so when a video drops, you know the location. Until next time, I am out of here. Mic drop, because as engineers we know, I never really drop this thing. I kind of want to add up how many of these I've gone through and see like what that bill comes to one of these days. I'll catch you guys later.